of the Hive. Chapter 4. Engineering. After eating a thoroughly enjoyable lunch, Twilight flew off to find Chief Engineer Sprocket Altair. The Hive mind told her that he was currently stationed in the Altair University. As she flew towards her destination, Twilight was confounded by the school's very existence.
I don't understand. Why would we need a university if the link can tell us everything that we need to know?
She thought about asking the Hive mind, but ultimately decided that she could just ask Sprocket himself. However, she was still wondering why she got 3 love crystals for lunch.
I know I can make general requests over the link, but I don't know how to send complex questions yet. I guess there's no harm in trying, right?
Twilight focused on Cadista's image and tried to send her a query. She got a reply back a few moments later, but couldn't decipher it.
Crud, this isn't working.
She was still 10 minutes away from the university, so she decided to try something else. Looking around, she spotted a drone flying parallel to her, and drifted over to him.
Excuse me, can you help me with something?
He instantly recognized the purple code and slitted eyes.
Of course, Twilight. What do you require? I can't seem to ask the Queen a question over the link yet. Can you help me speak to her? Absolutely,
he replied happily.
What did you want to know? Well, the Queen knows I was given an enormous amount of love from Celeste when she visited, but I still received 3 love crystals for lunch. Why couldn't they be saved, since I've already fed so much today? Give me a second,
he replied while relaying the message.
She says since you're a royal changeling, you require at least 3 times as much love as us drones. The longer your body's brimming with love, the faster your overall development will be.
She cocked her head at the statement.
My development?
This time the drone didn't bother relaying the query.
Well, it's not for nothing, sister. You're still at the princess stage of development. You're not gonna stop growing until you're queen size, as it were.
The thought of learning more about her physiology was enticing.
So I'm still basically a larva as far as royal wings go?
He gave a nonverbal sound of uncertainty.
I guess you could say that. Royal wings come in 3 flavors. A princess, what you are right now, is what every royal changeling starts off as. You'll reach the proto-queen stage at some point, and that's usually marked by your first laying. Full queens are like Cadista, and well, you know how they are.
Twilight mulled over the information.
What do you mean, laying?
He thought it was an obvious answer.
I guess it's our own fault for being so insular towards other pony nations. It's short for when you lay eggs. Oh.
She cringed a bit and pulled her hind legs closer together. The drone felt sympathy for her.
Twilight was already an adult mare before being reborn as a royal, so she'll probably learn about this stuff rather soon, but I might as well help her out now. In the other hives, a proto-queen will stay with the old hive until she has about 300 mature drones, giving her enough of a workforce to begin her own hive. That is, if she doesn't try to launch a coup against her mother.
Twilight recoiled at that last bit of information.
That sounds dreadful. How does,
She tried to think of a tactful way to ask.
How does our hive work in that regard? Well, that's entirely between you and Cadista. I don't know if it'll make you feel better, but Cadista and Yumiya decided this hive was far too important for that particular set of traditions. Cadista stayed for 400 years longer than she could have, because they wanted to make sure our hive survives. So when Yumiya was killed by Chrysalis 200 years ago, Cadista was already here to make sure that the hive didn't collapse without a queen. What happens when a hive collapses? Depends on the drones, really. If the other hives had the ability to be independent like ours, we probably would just be left queenless, without a way to replenish our numbers. We'd still be very disorganized and frightened with the absence of our presence in the link, but I don't think we'd remain that way forever.
The answer satisfied Twilight more than one drone could possibly know.
At least if the unthinkable happens, my brothers and sisters will be able to carry on. And the less independent drones of the other hives?
His even demeanor fell.
They'd likely go feral, or at least close to it.
Both changelings lapsed into a brief silence, before he spoke up again with genuine gratitude.
I'm really glad you're here, sis.
Twilight perked up at that statement.
With Cadista being alone on the throne for so long, I always worried that if something happened to her, everything that we had accomplished here in Stripped Gear would be destroyed by the other hives.
Twilight studied him for several long moments before answering. A smile slowly spread over her face.
I'm glad I'm here too, brother.
The drone noticed his destination was almost directly below him.
Oh, hope to see you later, sis. Bye.
Twilight waved back at him until he flew away. The university was close by and she descended towards it.
For knowing I'm a princess and all, my siblings seem to be a lot more casual towards me than I thought they would be. Well, I prefer it that way, rather than them walking on eggshells.
Twilight found that she was being directed to a square 4-story building. The space was occupied by various student projects to demonstrate their prowess in the field of engineering. Gleaming monuments of bronze and brass crowded the inner square, making it difficult to navigate by air. Twilight was captivated by them so much that she whined about her predicaments.
Oh, I want to study these so much, but I can't keep Sprocket waiting.
The moment she entered the building's halls, a deep sense of belonging washed over her. Memories of the smell of chalkboards, books, and the droning of lectures behind the classroom doors all came rushing back to her in a garbled mess. She pressed a hoof to her temple to ward off a headache, but the pain didn't really matter to her.
This is a place of learning, and being here feels so right. I know I'm gonna love it here.
However, before she got very far, her thoughts drifted back to her saddlebags, and she descended to the ground and opened the left pouch. Inside were 4 filled love crystals, 3 of which that she had received for lunch. She levitated the ones from lunchtime in front of her, and sighed.
Hasten my development. I don't know how to feel about that one day, laying eggs.
She brooded over that slightly unnerving thought.
My siblings working on machines, as soldiers, and even in the sewers. Am I not obligated to fill my purpose just as they do? I don't want this magnificent city to collapse if anything happens to Gadista just because I'm too scared to play my role.
With her mind made up, she brought the crystals to her horn and drained them. But they barely registered amidst Celestia's love.
I'm still saving the last one for Ratchet.
After depositing the empty crystals in her bag, Twilight made her way through the corridors to Sprocket's office.
Okay, Twi. Make a good first impression. Show him that you're the perfect student, and this first meeting will be a cakewalk.
Before she could bang on the door, a gravely voice yelled from within the office.
There's no need to knock, Twilight Sparkle. I can sense you out there.
With a sheepish grin, Twilight entered the office, and was met with an absolutely horrifying sight. Discarded papers, damaged scrolls, books in complete disarray, toppled inkwells, balled up pieces of paper on the floor, and a broken chalkboard met her eyes. And she had to fight every fiber in her being to keep herself from rushing forward to clean it up.
How can he possibly work under these maddening conditions?
A gravely voice from behind a pile of books directed her attention.
So, you finally arrived? I must say, I'm not very impressed.
Sprocket's condescending tone broke Twilight from her stupor.
What makes you say that?
That you obviously don't see the beauty of my filing system,
he said while sweeping a leg at his office.
Your distaste is palpable over the link.
Well, I'm sure it works for you.
She hastily replied to avoid further insult.
Right.
He replied curtly.
I'll be blunt, Miss Sparkle, I don't really see why our queen would bother sending you to me. I only deal with those who know what the platoon effect is, how to work with axiomatic design, and at the very least, know how to reverse engineer another student's work equal to or lower than their grade.
She rubbed her foreleg nervously.
Isn't that why I'm here? So I can learn those things?
He scowled and sat down at his desk.
If you were here to enter the school as a normal student, then I'd say yes. But the queen's got it in her head to think that she wants you to apprentice under me. Me!
He started, grumbling more to himself than to her.
To think I have to dumb down my theories and concepts so an elementary student can grasp even 1% of my genius.
Twilight arched an eyebrow.
To be honest, I don't see the point of having a school. Research and development, I understand, but can't the hive mind just give me all the information that I need?
He harumphed as he perused some of his notes.
You are a recent reborn, Miss Sparkle, and a former equestrian at that, so I'll forgive your ignorance.
He ignored a sour look from Twilight and continued.
Tell me, if we carried such valuable information over the link, made available to every brother and sister in the hive, what do you think would happen if another hive took one of ours hostage and ripped the information out of them?
Twilight recoiled a hoof.
They do that?
Of course they do.
He stopped looking over his notes to study the fledgling royal.
Most queens care nothing for the loss of a few hundred drones. To them, ripping apart another queen's drone is like peeking into your neighbor's window.
Sprocket didn't seem to notice or care about the appalled look on Twilight's face.
So you can imagine why such knowledge never leaves an individual drone's mind, except for when he's working, then it's shared with his fellow researchers, but only what's relevant to the task at hoof.
Twilight's wings fidgeted uncomfortably.
Oh, makes sense, I guess.
The grizzled old researcher wasn't sure if Twilight was up to the task of being under his wing, but his orders demanded that he give her a chance.
You may be a princess in body, Miss Sparkle, but until Gadista says otherwise, you're just like any other drone to me.
He leaned back in his chair to look over his disastrous filing system.
That being said, Mother thinks that you have potential, and I'll abide by her judgment until proved wrong.
Sprocket got up and started digging through his scattered books, pulling some out and placing them on the front end of his desk until he had a stack of 12.
Read and memorize these texts and pass an exam about them. Then I'll know that you can handle being my apprentice. If not, find something else to do with your time or enter the school like any other student.
As she walked over to the pile of books, primal joy erupted out of Twilight at the prospect of reading.
I have a feeling I'm gonna love it here.
He rolled his eyes as the mare tenderly placed each book in her saddlebags.
We'll see.
2 blocks away, Twilight walked into a 3-story library crammed with books. Rows upon rows of shelves left a little room to walk between them. Only the top floor and the roof had any real open areas to read. Twilight made her way into the center of the first floor, and took a deep, slow breath as a profound sense of nostalgia and belongingness oozed out of every shelf and tome.
This feels like I've finally come home. Maybe I should move in here after my connection with the hive mind is complete.
She thought aloud with a giggle. There were dozens of drones in the library, all of them either studying or searching for books. Not wanting to disturb them, Twilight opted to snatch a cushion and find an empty spot near one of the ground floor bookcases. She settled down near a window and pulled out the first book on her list.
Basic engineering principles.
She had to suppress a squeal of delight.
This is going to be so much fun!
I wonder how that old changeling is going to react when he sees that Twilight is going to excel in everything. Assuming that she is, but come on, it's Twilight, of course she is. Now let's get on to our super intelligent donators. Top donators Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and only one thing. Zar630, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Crazy Killer 557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyre, Chris, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, RuneScythe 9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Perkett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGod12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hud Zaza, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.